Assalamualaikum viewers, welcome to Assess Aesthetic Clinic. Uh, we just want to demonstrate a very particular point here in hair transplant. You are in a live situation in our operation theatre. Today we are in a fix, we have a problem. We received this patient who already had a hair transplant elsewhere, somewhere else in Pakistan, not at our facility. He's a type 7 patient, which means which is worst of the baldness, where you already have very less number of hair grafts. And since his transplant was done somewhere else, and they claim to have done 1500 grafts. So if you can bring the camera close now, if you can follow my finger, you can see the result of the previous hair transplant, which is almost an inch and a half of his frontal scalp was covered. And being a type 7, rest of it was all left empty, starting an inch behind the frontal line and going up to the donor area. So you can see, if you can push back the camera, so you can see it's almost 10% of the baldness was covered and 90% was left as such. Now the problem with us today is that type 7 baldness in the patient who had already had one hair transplant, we were left with a very meager, very less quantity of hair grafts to harvest. So we tried our best, but we were able to get only 2000 grafts. Now we are just trying to give you a comparison that with how can you improve or how can you cover more area with less number of grafts. So that's the message for today, that we are going to tell you, just demonstrate how can you make an effective use of 2000 grafts. That is the purpose. So if you can bring the camera here close to the scalp, please keep it at a distance so that all the scalp comes in to perspective. That's better. So you see, this was what was done in the previous session. Just this, you can see from these grafts nicely in their place. Now we had to use 2000 graft in almost, you can see 3 fingerprints, which makes almost 2 inches. So there is this technique that we have devised, which is known as a filling technique. Filling technique means that you just make random holes wide apart. They're quite apart, they don't look dense. And then you fill them with a certain technique that we have devised, which is a bit complicated to explain in the video, but in a live session, while it's being done, then it can be demonstrated. So, but for beginners and for all our viewers today, what we have to do is that what we have to tell you, is that you make holes wide apart at distance from each other. Then you fill them. So that's the concept of this scheme. So somehow over years we have learned that instead of doing very close holes, which obviously is a standard for good hair transplant, sometimes what you can do is that you can just use this fill-up technique. So let's put it another way. Generally, we would want to place 33 to 37 grafts in a square centimeter for a good density. In this filling technique here, if you can bring, it's not 37-30, it's hardly 20-22 grafts per centimeter square. But what we have done is we have done the filling technique, which I said that we make 10 grafts randomly in no identifiable pattern and then fill them with another 10. So the 20 grafts are supposed to look like 30 density hair. So if you can look at it, you can see they don't look like very sparse. In my humble opinion, they are, but they will not look like this. So it's the scheme. So on a final word, the point I want to emphasize here is for all our viewers that number of grafts is not important. This is what we learned with experience. Yes, it is, but on top of that, as of paramount importance is what is the scheme of your placement. What is the design that you are producing? There are so many designs that we use. Some people use the ECG kind of design. Some use deliberately broken jagged lines. Some use alternate pattern. This is our own scheme, which is known as the filling technique. Just make some random holes and then fill them with another random ones without following any standard scheme. So that is what you do in a compromised situation in a patient where there are less hair and there is a large area to be grafted. I think that's enough for today. For any questions, what you can comment, or you can contact us on the links that are present. If you can see behind me, you can see some numbers and our websites and our Facebook pages, and some of our reps can always help you. And please subscribe and like our channel. Have a nice day.